Good job figuring this out.
It was a little bit of testing the other day.
That was like my travel day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Then I need to mute this because I can hear that.
So this time lag might be.
We're not going to hear it.
Okay.
That's why I just muted that. This was one of the problems we.
Gotcha. So we will be able to see Emily in the main Zoom video?
Yes.
Gotcha.
Edit this. This video, that, save.
Nice picture.
Save. Okay, that's going. And then I go here. And then, so I think we're going. So we'll just wait for Emily now. Okay, I think.
Should we have light chit chat while waiting?
What do you want to light chit chat about?
It's your rodeo.
Our chores for this weekend.
Our what?
The chores.
The chores. We don't have chores. We just have stuff.
Yeah, and then the only other thing I need to remember is when she joins to click on gallery view so that it stacks us so that people can see side by side.
Cool. I'm glad you figured all this out, given that my laid out status, like that would have been a
little bit of a stressor
today.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Jessica says she can see and hear us.
Can we see like in the...
I can have the chat open.
Okay.
If people ask questions.
Yeah, why don't we open that up so we get a little... Seems creepy just sitting here saying nothing and doing nothing, even though we're waiting for Emily, but...
Yeah. So yeah, this is the chat. If anybody posts there, it should update and we can see that. Mm-hmm.
Do you have your Dropbox sync turned off just to free up a tiny... Oh, hey, Emily.
Emily.
Hello.
Hi.
How are you?
Second. Let's see. Just connecting my headphones.
Excellent.
Ta-da.
I was just in New York yesterday.
Oh. Hi.
Hi.
You guys are in, how's it going?
Good.
How are you?
How are you?
Really good. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me on. What a delight.
We are absolutely thrilled, and I think our audience is as well. I feel like about a third of the people in our community, at least have read your book or done Ziva online. And so they're super pumped about today. And
then the other 2/3 are super curious because we all just blather on like idiots about how awesome you are. So.
Oh man, well, I was just in the kitchen and talking to my husband and he's so excited. Like he doesn't get excited about much that I do, but he was like, oh man, this is a big deal. Are you excited? Are you nervous? And like, we're both fans, but it's rare that my husband gets excited. So thank you. Awesome. And we both read The Paleo Solution years and years ago. And then I also, the book Everyday Paleo, you wrote the forward to. Yeah. So that's like the only cookbook that I use. And
very cool.
Much, but I'm really thrilled to be here.
Awesome. That's awesome.
Also, before we dive in, people aren't watching this right now, correct?
It's live streaming into our community. Okay. So yes, people are watching.
So people are on it right now?
They
Amazing. Hi, everyone. Cool. I just wanted to say that Allie just reached out about you guys becoming an affiliate for Thanksgiving, but we can make that and talk about it now if it's helpful, but just wanted to, in case people are interested in like a discount code for Ziva Online, we can talk about that later.
Okay, cool. Okay. I think our audience would love it. So yeah, we're excited. Yeah.
Great.
So as we said, I think a good chunk of our folks know about you and have either read your book or done Ziva Online. But for those who don't know your story, would you mind sharing just a little bit about how you came to be the meditation goddess of the modern times?
I'm putting that on my website, by the way. Meditation goddess of the modern times. So yeah, so the quick version is that I was on Broadway for 10 years, which is its own kind of high stress, high demand job. My job was to understudy 3 of the lead roles. That was my last job in a chorus line. So you're basically living in constant fight or flight. You never know which character you're going to play. That anxiety led to insomnia, couldn't sleep through the night for 18 months. I started going gray at 26, was getting sick and injured. And it was confusing why I was living my dream on Broadway, doing the thing that I'd wanted to do since I was a child. You know, I had climbed the Mount Everest and I was miserable. And so I kept asking people, what are you doing? What are you doing? And this woman sitting next to me in the dressing room had a harder job than I did, but she was crushing it. And she said, I meditate. And I promptly rolled my eyes and I was like, oh God, one of you. And then you're like, yeah, I was like, hi, I gotta go. I'm like, oh, I got some texting to do. And then was text messaging even a thing then? Probably. And then anyway, long story short, I found meditation. On my first day of my first course, I was in a different state of consciousness that I had ever been in. I liked it. That night, I slept through the night for the first time in 18 months. Wow. I have every night since. That was 11 years ago. I am 40 now. I have like 2 gray hairs. I was legitimately going gray in my 20s. I didn't get sick for 8.5 years. I used to get sick 4 to 5 times a year. And then I started enjoying my job again. And I just thought, why does everybody not do this? So I left Broadway. I went to India. I started what became a 3-year training process to be a teacher. And then since graduating, I started Ziva Meditation. So we have a brick and mortar in New York, but we also started the world's first online meditation training, which I'm very proud of. It's now called Ziva Online. We just hit 10,000 students of that iteration, but I have 20,000 students around the world.
That's awesome.
And I just found out the book has sold 50,000 copies. My book, Stress Less, Accomplish More, came out in February.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. So it's been a fun road.
That is so great.
Well, your work has changed our lives. Like, how did you?
So I can't, it was somebody's Instagram feed. I was just scrolling and I saw a picture of your book and read the caption. And for whatever reason, at that point in our life, we had a lot going on. And I was like, okay, this is kind of calling to me. So I ordered it. Started reading it, and then it was April 1st, and Robb was doing a lot, was under a lot of pressure, and we were kind of bickering, and I'm like, babe, like, here's this book. Don't even bother reading the first part. Just do these 4 pages in the middle, like you need it now. And so he read those 4 pages, and
it was basically like the meditation equivalent of a guy in a heart attack and needing an AED shock. You know, it was like, now, crash cart now. And it within 2 days, like my sleep was profoundly different. And this is maybe, I think I was so broken that the first couple of days doing the meditation, I went to, I don't know where, Phil. Like I was out on another plane somewhere. And it's interesting over the course of time. And I know you make the case, don't try to chase that kind of altered state, but I would go through the coming to your senses deal. And it was a little psychedelic feeling, like the way that I would change and just like warp drived into that. And I guess I'm stumbling around kind of a question, like, is that just because I was so broken and I had so much stuff unpacked and now I'm maybe at a little bit more of a baseline that it's still clearly like I'm addicted to it. Like if I don't get both sits in, I feel it, I miss it. When I'm in it, I want to protect it with, knives and guns and axes, but it's different than those first, say like week. That first week, I feel like it was literally like a lifeline being thrown to me. Do you have any thoughts around what was happening there?
I do. I think meditation in the beginning for people is very different from meditation 3, 4, 5 months in. And a lot of people think, oh, well, the more I meditate, the easier it will be for me to clear my mind, or I'll be able to access those states once I get good at meditation. But it's almost the opposite that happens. In the beginning, I don't think you were broken. I don't love the word broken. You might have had some stress in your nervous system, but broken to me suggests not changeable, immutable. Right. And that's just never the case. Right. And so, however, most of us are dealing with a bit of a sleep deprivation, a bit of a sleep debt. And a lot of us, if sleep is the most restful form of rest that we have, then a lot of us are very tired. And so in the beginning, once you find a technique that is designed for people like us and not for monks, the whole point of it, and the whole point of us using a mantra is that it goes in and it de-excites the nervous system and it helps you to access these more subtle states of consciousness. You're actually creating order in the cells, in the body by this process of de-excitation. And in the beginning, that can be very profound because you're going from very, very amped, very stressed to like some other state of consciousness. And it's very easy to get addicted to that feeling or to start chasing that because this is validating. If you go from stress to chilling, it's like, oh, I'm the best meditator in the land. And then what happens over time is that as the right and left hemispheres of the brain start to integrate, as you decrease the stress from your waking state, you don't need as much rest in your meditation state. And so these states of consciousness start to blend. So here you are in your waking state, here you are in meditation, doesn't feel all that different, doesn't feel all that validating. And so this is why I'm always saying we meditate to get good at life, not to get good at meditation. Because if you're chasing that change of consciousness, it's like, well, go do ayahuasca, go smoke some pot, go to LSD. There's lots of things you can do to have a change in consciousness very dramatically and quickly, but that's not why we meditate. We meditate for this eradication of the backlog of stresses. We meditate so that we can blend the hemispheres of our brain, so that we can bring that calm, quiet, inner contentedness of the meditation with us into our waking state. And the price that we pay for that is that over time, the waking state starts to permeate the meditation state. So it's not an either or phenomenon. It starts to be more like and.
Okay. That makes a ton of sense. And it, again, like we're just going to sing your praises here for a little bit. Like I've tried everything in this area. Like I know Sam Harris, we've talked a number of times, tried his stuff, didn't stick, tried everything. And it just wasn't the thing, you know, and your approach is so simple. It's so interesting because I'm clearly like science geek. The only reason why Nikki married me is at Chico State. When we were there were 5 women for every 1 guy. So like my arrest record was non-significant, and, you know, so she was kind of stuck. So I don't get out a lot, but, you know, I've just tinkered with everything. And there was just something about both the blend of the really pinpoint practicality, like, no, man, do this, this, and this, do ABC, and then XYZ is going to happen. And don't make it up on your own. Do what I tell you to do. And then here's some explanation, both from like a cognitive neuroscience perspective, and then also a little bit of hippie chakra balancing type stuff too. And like
sprinkled on top.
Just sprinkled in, but it was, for me, it was perfect. And it has been interesting to check out our community, which are also pretty well-educated folks, kind of geeked out on health and wellness, you know, and message has just resonated with folks profoundly. Like it's been really, really incredible.
Absolutely. Yeah. I would love for you though, because so many people do use different apps, and I know people are using like these like Muse headband things, and there's all kinds of timers and stuff. So I would love for you to explain how Ziva is different, what makes it unique. And because I feel like it's so,
because it absolutely is.
So it is so different from what a lot of people do.
So it's interesting because when I started teaching 8-9 years ago, it was like a bunch of monks and me, and I had a very different meditation, like marketing challenge of differentiating what I did from what monks did. When I first started teaching, I was the accessible one. You know, it's like you can either move to the cave and, you know, be someone's disciple for 5 years, or you can do this thing that's made for us. And now I have a different challenge because 58 million people have meditation apps on their phones, but only 1 million paid users, which is interesting to me, which suggests to me there's 57 million people out there looking for a meditation practice that works for them. And so now people think that meditation is whatever the free app is on their phone, or whatever the hundreds of millions of guided videos are on YouTube. And where I think we all need some education around this is that what most people are calling meditation is what I would call mindfulness, which is the art of bringing your awareness into the present moment. And mindfulness is beautiful and powerful and necessary in this day and age when we've all become bulimic of the brain. You know, there's so much inflow happening all the time that we need these practiced moments of, you know, let me come here, let me come now, let me feel the water over my hands while I'm washing dishes, let me forest bathe, let me, you know, be super present when I'm surfing, you know, all the things that people are calling meditation. Exercise is my meditation, cooking is my meditation. What they're saying is those things bring me presence. I am conscious when I am doing those things. I'm in the present moment. Beautiful. We use mindfulness as the appetizer of the Ziva technique to the main course of meditation. And the type of meditation that I teach is not based on something that was made for monks. It was made for people like us, people with busy minds and busy lives. And this is really one of the biggest distinctions because, you know, even Headspace, even though it's so user-friendly and there's the fun animations, it was developed by a former monk. You know, Jay Shetty, one of the biggest personal brands in the world, was a monk. And we kind of fetishize monks a little bit in our society. But I also think that because people like us, people with busy minds and busy lives, are trying to do what was originally designed for monks as their meditation, this is why everybody thinks it's hard. This is why everybody feels like a meditation failure, because they're trying to clear their minds. They're trying to do a style that was not made for us. And so the thing about Ziva is that even though it's very simple, it's very powerful. And we utilize these tools that go in and give your body this deep healing rest that's somewhere between 2 to 5 times deeper than sleep. And we know that because the metabolic rate decreases, heart rate slows, and body temperature cools. So it's the equivalent of like taking a supercharged power nap, but without the sleep hangover on the other side. And the cool benefit of that, basically like power nap that you're taking, is not only are you more awake on the other side, but when you give your body this rest, it knows how to heal itself. And one of the things that it's healing itself from is stress, not only from today, which is what mindfulness is good at, dealing with your stress in the now. But this type of meditation that I teach at Ziva is actually healing your stress from the past. All that stuff that has left imprints on our cells, imprints in our brain, imprints even in our epigenetics, the stuff that we've inherited for the past 7 generations. That's what this style of meditation is going in and healing. And what I find to be the real kicker on that is that is the thing that gives you an ROI. Like if you're just dealing with your stress in the now, that's a state change. That's like taking an aspirin when you have a headache. It's masking the symptom. Better than drinking tequila, but not ultimately dealing with the root cause, right? Like if you want to handle, why are you having headaches? Why are you feeling fatigued? Why do you have insomnia? Why do you have autoimmune issues? Why is your recovery time not what you want it to be? Then we have to go after the root cause, which is the stress from our past. So really it's like, you're not spending 15 minutes, you're investing 15 minutes because the time that you're going to get back is exponential. And that's really the kicker, is that I'm not guiding you through. I don't want people to be dependent on me or an app. You know, everyone's like, please make an app. I'm like, no, you know, I'll never have never say never, but my intention is not to have an addiction model. I don't want people to be tethered to their phone in order to meditate. Yes, I utilize technology to give people the keys to the car and the driving instructions, but it's designed to make you self-sufficient so that once you graduate from the course or once you finish reading the book, you don't need me anymore. You could do it on a plane or on a train or on a bus or with your kids screaming in the next room.
It's interesting. Like, I really feel like we have always tried to create a non-dependency type relationship with the folks that we serve. Like if they can go be achieve and then they outgrow us, then we did our job amazingly well. And then if they hang out for the community and we have fun and, you know, it's still providing value, then that's awesome. But I wonder if that's maybe where our gears really mesh, because I didn't really think about it, but you really do, like you empower people so that it's like, hey, throw away the book, turn off the computer, go do it. And
I love that you don't need a phone. You don't need a timer. It doesn't matter if it's loud. It doesn't matter if you have the perfect little cushion to sit on your, you know, in a beautiful room with like decorations. Like you can literally do it anywhere. And that's the part that I think is so empowering.
Yeah. And then something I neglected to say is that, what the Ziva technique is a trifecta of mindfulness, meditation, and manifesting. And just to succinctly recap that, the mindfulness is very good at dealing with your stress in the now, like a state change. The meditation is very good at getting rid of your stress from the past, which is creating a trait change. And then the manifesting is giving people the tools to consciously create a life they love, to deal with their dreams for the future. And what I found is that the combination of meditation and manifesting is so much more powerful than either one alone, because you can meditate all day, but if you're not clear about what it is you want, it's very hard for nature to give you the thing. And conversely, you could be manifesting all day, but if your body's riddled with stress, you don't believe that you deserve your desires. And so the whole is greater than the sum of its parts.
Yeah.
Can I diverge into my medical school art class?
Oh yeah,
deal?
Sure.
So you might find this interesting. It may be, you know, the end, you're like, okay, those guys are nuts, but we'll try this. But first year in medical school, and we had this kind of art class thing going on. And basically the instructor, she sat us down and she's like, okay, I want you to envision something and then build it. Doesn't have to be good, but just try to picture something, whether it's a cat or a flower or whatever. And she came back around a little bit after that and she was like, okay, this is interesting. So what are you envisioning? And I'm like, well, I'm just kind of liking these colors and this and that. And she's like, no, what are you envisioning? And I started getting kind of prickly and I'm like, well, I mean, and this woman got in my kitchen so profoundly, like I stomped out of the class, threw the stuff down. I was like, fucking idiot, and I reflect, this is 20 years ago almost. And I have been amazing at you drop me in the middle of Siberia with no resources and you come back in a year and I will have built a community and have stuff going. But if you ask me, Rob, what do you want to be in 2 months or 3 years? Then it's like,
well, this has been a challenge ever since we've known each other. Because anytime I've brought up anything that, Tony Robbins or anybody that talks about kind of the manifesting thing,
so
it's
prickly. Yeah.
Because in your mind, it's like, oh, so you just sit around wishing for this thing and it's going to show up. And
what it was is I was completely unable to do it. I mean, zero capacity to sit down and just kind of say, well, what's something that I love? And would I like that in my life? And is it possible? And what are my actionable steps? So it's interesting. I even on that manifesting side, which your manifesting masterclass, we've been working our way through that, and that too is amazing. But I'm just curious, what do you think happened in that scenario? Because I can actually sit down and I have some really important work I'm trying to do. Our goal with the Healthy Rebellion is liberate 1 million people out of the sick care system. That is no small thing. If we fall short by 90%, we will have still made a massive impact. But I'm actually able to think about, I want to do this because I love it. And and here's my actionable stuff. But what happened to me in that process? Why did I go from literally Sonny Bono skiing through trees, no plan, just don't hit a tree, to actually being able to say, this is the path I want, this is what I want to do, and I'm going to do it. I can't describe. I mean, huge change, huge, and I'm a lot less of a dick now too. So
yes,
I can
that's
confirm.
Really my goal.
I confirm.
Okay, so I think you just answered your own question, is that for a lot of people, manifesting is very challenging because we've been in fight or flight for so long. We've been in survival mode for so long, which is why you could be dropped in the middle of Siberia and thrive. It's why you could be skiing down the trees and not hit any of them. It's that present moment, fight or flight survival. And because for so many of us, that had to be a very developed tool to make it through our childhood or make it through our 20s or whatever situations we were in, which for oftentimes people like us and healers, it's that's what gave us our superpowers is to thriving through those adverse experiences. And they are the very things that gave us our superpowers end up creating our limiting beliefs. And it stifles what we believe is possible. And for a lot of high achievers and high performers, they scoff at the very mention of manifesting because it sounds hippy dippy. They think oh, you just want me to secret my dreams? You want me to just get high and make a vision board? And the answer is I mean, fun times, but the answer is no, it's not about just sitting back and being fatalistic. It's about owning your 50% of the puzzle and trusting nature to do its 50% of the puzzle. And I think that so often we fall out of balance in one direction or the other. We either become control freaks and we try to do it all ourselves, or we become laissez-faire. And it's well, I put it on my vision board, so I don't need to apply for the job. And the reality is nature gave us 50-50. It's 50% individuality and 50% totality. And for me, the manifesting it's not changing what's on your to-do list. You still have to do your work, but it's communicating to nature how and what you would like nature to deliver. And I like to anthropomorphize this a little bit and think about nature, capital N nature. You could fill in universe, God, collective consciousness, whatever term you like to use for that. But I like to think about it as a kind and benevolent parent. You know, it's like I have a son now, and it's really taught me so much about manifesting, because I see him, and if I know what he wants, I'm like, please have the blueberries.
Right.
You know, like, yes, I would love to take you to the playground, but he can't speak English right now. And so it's very hard for me to discern what it is that he wants. So I'm just constantly hovering, like, what? Just say what you want. Use your words, use your signs. But when he says it, like, mama, milk, hug, playground, I'm like, oh, happy to deliver. And so all we're doing in manifesting is learning how to place the order with the cosmic waitress at the cosmic restaurant. And then conversely, learning how to surrender, learning how to trust, what I like to call pronoia, which is, you know, the opposite of paranoia. Pronoia, this belief that nature is constantly conspiring to deliver our desires.
I have never heard that.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
I like that.
Huh.
Yeah, pronoia.
That's awesome.
Good.
One of the biggest, whenever we talk about meditation to friends, or, you know, it comes up in conversation, people are like, oh yeah, either they push back or they're doing it already, which is great. And when I talk about Ziva and I mentioned that it's a 2 times a day meditation, that's when it's like, oh no, I would never have time to do it 2 times a day. So like, I'd love for you to speak to why it's important to do it twice, and, you know, just kind of give folks that extra motivation. And I think you used the term art math in your book, and how you kind of explain, you know, why the 2 times per day is so important.
Sure. So I'll explain the art math, because I think it's an analogy, if you will. But if you think about, you wake up on Monday morning, you pick up 10 units of stress. You go to sleep Monday night, sleep burns away 7 units of stress. So you've picked up 10, sleep burns away 7. You wake up on Tuesday and you're starting your day with 3. Pick up 10 on Tuesday, sleep away 7, start Wednesday with 6, 9, 12. And most of us have just been piling up the stresses for decades. And this is what leads to, you know, Harvard Medical School saying that stress is responsible for 90% of all doctors' visits. It's why scientists are calling stress the black plague of our century. But the good news is, this is not an incurable illness. We have a cure. It's called meditation. We all just think we're too busy to do it. And so here's the math on why you're not too busy. So here's the math on twice a day meditation. You pick up 10, you meditate Monday morning, that burns away 3. Meditate Monday afternoon, that burns away 3. So you've picked up 10, meditation has now eradicated 6. You only have 4 left. Go to sleep Monday night, sleep burns away 7. You wake up on Tuesday and now you're at -3. Pick up 10, burn off 13 with the sleep and the meditation. And on Wednesday, you're at -6, -9, -12. And we just keep doing this bit by bit, meditation by meditation, until we've gotten through the entire backlog of stresses we've ever accumulated. Now, how long does that process take? About 7 to 10 years. Most people are like, excuse me, I was looking for the 15-day program. Like, do you sell an upgrade or something? And like I mentioned earlier, you know, you could go take a bunch of ayahuasca or a bunch of acid. Like, there's things you can do to usher yourself into very high states of consciousness. The trick is, when you come back to sobriety, now you have to pay the piper. You know, like, eventually you're going to have to do the work. You know, you could take steroids and get big, but if you want to get strong, you have to lift heavy things. If you want to usher yourself into higher states of consciousness, you have to eradicate the stress in your body. So this is what I hear more often than I would like. I'll check in with folks. Hey, how's it going? They're like, good. I'm meditating every day. I'm doing it in the morning. That morning one is easy, but that second one is tough for me. Because I don't know if you've heard this, but I'm actually the busiest person in the land. And so I just can't get to that second meditation. And here's the math on once a day. You pick up 10 units of stress. You meditate Monday morning, because that's easy. You forgot to schedule it into your calendar like you would a call with your lawyer. Then you skip the second one. So you picked up 10, meditation burns away 3, you sleep away 7, you wake up on Tuesday and now you're at 0. Pick up 10, burn off 10, 0. Pick up 10, burn off 10, 0. Pick up 10, burn off 10, 0. And now you're in a holding pattern. Now you're in a maintenance program. And just like with physical fitness, maintenance is not the program.
It's boring too.
It's boring.
Like, you have
and
no sense of progress. Yeah.
Yeah. And if you don't feel any sense of progress, or like you're making any strides, you're going to quit. You know, like, if you're just maintaining on your physical fitness, that's a fast track to being weaker than when you started.
Right.
And what I try to really hit home for folks is that twice a day is not 2x better. It is exponentially better. It's like doing cardio and lifting weights. Otherwise, you're just like drinking a Coke and getting on a treadmill. It's like calories in, calories out, you know, which I know is an old model, but it's, and like, for any of us, if we're not seeing a real return on investment, we're going to quit. That's why there's 57 million people who have downloaded a free app and aren't using it, because it's like they did it for 10 minutes. They felt okay, but they're not seeing any real life-changing benefits. So like, I don't have time for that. So none of us have time to spend. None of us have time to waste. all of us have time to invest if we're going to get more time back in our day, if we're going to be more productive, if we're going to need less sleep, if we're going to improve our sleep latency, if we're going to improve our immune system, if we're going to increase our sex drive, our parking karma, our reverse our body age by 15 years, and these are all the things that have been scientifically proven to happen when you start a regular practice.
So you could make the case then that possibly one of the reasons why I have stuck with it, we have stuck with it, is that even though it's 15 more minutes, it's 30 minutes total, the 15-minute investment would stall out. You won't have a sense of progress. And so you're going to bail on it. Whereas with the 2 15-minute blocks, there's constant forward momentum, constant forward progress. You kind of get that little dopamine hit from the fact that you're like, oh man, I'm feeling better. Like you notice it, because we've had a couple of travel days where it's like, okay, the second one just didn't happen. And it's like, you're grateful for the one in the morning, but you're really missing the second one, So, I mean, it's interesting. Like if you're going to get the full benefit, you really need to invest in the 2 a day. Otherwise you're just kind of shooting yourself in the foot to some degree.
Yeah, or you're just treading water. And ultimately, after time, you're going to feel like you're failing because your life is not really getting that much better. And then you're spending, not investing that time, which I would call wasting. And look, none of us are going to do anything for very long that we feel like we're failing at. We always want to feel like we're progressing and that it's worth investing our most valuable resource, which is our time. And I think it takes an extraordinary amount of discipline to do once a day. I think it's actually easier to do twice a day, because you become more productive. Your to-do list that used to take you 5 hours starts to take you 3. You used to need 8 or 9 hours of sleep and wake up feeling exhausted. You start to need more like 7 or 8 and you wake up feeling refreshed. I mean, think about sick days. How much time do you lose when you're sick? What about losing your temper on your loved one, or not being patient with your kids, or stupid mistakes that you make at 5 o'clock in the afternoon when your brain, checked out by 3 p.m. If you had meditated, how many less mistakes would you be making?
Right.
How much more intuitive would you be on the dating apps? How much better business would you be making? So we're not even clocking how much time stress is costing us. And that's something that I have people do on the front end, is I actually have them clock how much stress is costing them financially. Like I want them to look at the last 6 months of their life. How much money have they spent on alcohol, pot, sleeping pills, anti-anxiety, antidepressants, doctor's visits, pain meds, therapy, supplements, all the stuff. And then say, okay, what if you just need less of all of that? Like you're going to be a cheaper date. You're going to need less alcohol. You will need less supplements. You will need less therapy. Your sleep will be more efficient. And it's not magic. And it's not even for 6 months. It's like you have these tools for the rest of your life. And so once you start to do the math on that, of what stress is costing me financially and in time, then this becomes a no-brainer. It's just, we're not doing the right math.
Is there ever a case for anybody to do more? Yeah, 3 a day. Like if they're going through like a super stressful period in their life and they need that math to really kick into high gear.
Yeah. So that would actually be on the travel days. So when you're strapped to a chair and you can't go to the bathroom and you can't be on your phone and there's no entertainment, like that's when you want to meditate more. So anytime you're flying, if you're pregnant, if you're sick, or if you're not sleeping. So anytime you're under an increase in physical demand, you could throw like a marathon or a surgery. Anytime your body's really needing to recover, you could do more, but you wouldn't want to increase if it's your wedding week or you just started a new job or your in-laws are in town. That's when you actually want to be religious about the twice a day. And then when you're under an increase in physical demand, you can increase the practice.
Gotcha. Is it beneficial to, if you were to do more, is it more beneficial to do more of the 15-minute sessions? Or I find frequently that like internally, I can recognize when I'm at 15 minutes pretty easily, but oftentimes I'm like, I'm doing 30 minutes and I 20 to 30 minutes. So I just go longer. Is it kind of a wash? Like, so long as you're doing more, it's better? Or do you have any sense of like the longer investments provide a little more benefit, or is it the more frequent exposure if you were to divvy up 45 minutes of your day one way or the other?
So I would say it would depend on what the demand is. Like if you're pregnant, you can meditate as much as you want, as long as you want. Like you can't meditate too much when you're pregnant. It's such a huge, demand on the body. With flying, I recommend one extra meditation for every 5 hours of travel. But if you're sick per se, then you could just, if your body wanted to go for 45 minutes or an hour, you could just let it go. Now in your case, if the body is just innocently and spontaneously wanting to go a little bit longer, and that's happening on a regular basis, that could be a product of two things. Like one, your nervous system is pretty pure. Like you've spent a lifetime purifying your physiology, and your body's just like already kind of like closer to that state. And provided that you're not having any intense catharsis or emotional purging, then I feel okay with you adapting it and listening to your body. For most people though, I say, follow the program, because there's 3 different ways that people can learn. People can learn through the book, they can learn through Ziva online, or they can learn live face-to-face with me. And based on which of those you're doing, there's different mantras and there's different time lengths. And I created those on purpose. So I'd say that the live is kind of like the Maserati of meditation. And those are the most powerful mantras. We go for 20 minutes and it's, it's just like going in and cleaning house, and then the online course is a little bit gentler. It's like an adorable Toyota, it's fast, efficient. It's going to get you there, but it's not a Maserati. And then the book is even gentler. And that's kind of like the Vespa. So they're all going to get, all roads lead to Rome. Okay. It's just how powerful the mantra is usually how long the body wants to sit in the meditation. And so for the book and the online, it's 15 minutes twice a day versus the live is 20. But for occasionally, and I would call you're an edge case for sure. If the body's going a little bit longer innocently, fine to listen to that.
Okay.
How would you recommend, like when you do that, when you explain the art math and, we talk about alleviating these units of stress that we've accumulated through our lives. And then you think about our children, how would you recommend, or when would you recommend teaching meditation to children so that they don't maybe accumulate all of the stress that we all did, growing up?
Yeah, thank you for asking that. And I'm very happy to report that our big project for 2020 is Ziva Kids.
Oh, wow.
I'm so excited for that.
We just started development on it now. And, I'm not a child psychologist. I don't specialize in teaching kids. So I'm really seeking out help and support from the best in the business. Because I want to, I really want to do it well, but we're going to have different modules for different age groups, but at least 80% of the training is going to be for the parents. And the things I can tell you now that I feel pretty certain about is that the more you clean your own house, the less stressed your kids are going to be. Right. Our stress is directly impacting our kids, and kids are narcissists. They have to deify us. Right. And so because they need us to survive, so we have to be kind of perfect and holy in their eyes. And so if we're stressed, they're going to take that personally, and they're going to think, well, mommy's a goddess. Mommy's, there's nothing wrong with her. If she's stressed, it must be my fault. Daddy's angry and he's perfect. So if he's mad, something's wrong with me. And so they internalize not only their own stress, but also ours. And there's an interesting study out of Yale that was treating kids with anxiety disorders, and they didn't treat the kids at all. They only treated the parents. And they had significant improvement in the kids' anxiety levels. And so step 1 of Ziva Kids is going to be, hey, parents, giddy up. You got to clean your own house. So let's celebrate those successes, knowing that you meditating is already such a massive gift to your children. And not only because you're decreasing your own stress, but that they're starting to see that you are taking responsibility for your own mental health. And so if you're crabby one day and you didn't meditate, they're like, oh, mommy's mean. Maybe she needs to meditate. Or daddy's a lot more fun after he meditates. And so rather than taking that personally, they see that it's a practice. It's something you can work on like anything else. But I would say, if you wanted to, in the meantime, while we're developing Ziva Kids, I'd say anywhere around like 5 or 6-ish, you could start to include them in it. Like from the time they can speak English, I would tell them that you're meditating. They're like, mommy's going to meditate. Daddy's going to meditate. And then once they understand English, you could say, I'm training to be a Jedi. So please don't interrupt mommy's meditation right now.
That is exactly the language I used with Zoe. Was
really?
Hey, do you remember Star Wars? She's like, yeah. And I'm like, meditation is the closest thing to you developing Jedi powers that exist. And she was like, really? And so, yeah.
It's true.
That carries some cachet in our house. Yeah.
Good. So, but if Star Wars doesn't carry cachet in your house, maybe it's, My Little Pony or Care Bear Stare, or like whatever your kids would understand. You're going to have rainbows shooting out of you once you meditate.
Right.
You don't want to lie, but just whatever makes it accessible for the kids. And then I would say include them in it. If you're meditating, maybe just give them a book or have some activity that they really enjoy, and meditate while they can see you versus locking yourself away in a room, so that it doesn't become this thing that you're like, oh, well, mommy's taking herself away from me in order to meditate. It's something that they see, and it becomes less foreign, and they start to see it as a superpower. Like, oh, this is a way for me to go inside. Books about meditation are great, because then they start to see like, oh, this is something that people do, and they can start to develop their own. But it's way easier for kids to meditate than us. My kids' course is only an hour and a half, because I can teach them much faster than I can teach adults. And the other thing is that I would say, you could share perhaps the mantra from the book, but oftentimes kids, and I do not recommend this for adults, but sometimes kids will cognize their own mantra. Like they will have a word or something that is like a settling sound that resonates for them. And the other thing with kids is that we don't want to be so disciplined. It's not like we have to do it every day, twice a day, and you have to do it before school. Just teach them the way in and let them figure out when they want to use it, and they'll surprise you.
That's huge. That's really
Sagan, our youngest, has sat with you many times. Yeah. And she'll ride 90.
She'll sit there most of the time. And I just tell her, like, when you're done, you just get up and go. And then I'll come out.
And how old is she?
She's 5.
She's
5.
Great. So I have to brag for just a second. So my son is 17 months old, and the other day, and I don't actually meditate around him very much, because he's a baby essentially. And so I normally meditate if my mom is here, if my nanny is here, and so I have been doing it in seclusion thus far. But the other day I was with him, and I could tell he was ready for a nap, but he was fighting it. And so I just put him in his crib, and then there was a couch like right next to his crib. And he was crying and reaching for me. And so finally I just picked him up and I sat him in my lap in the dark, and I just meditated. And he had a book, and he was kind of looking at his book for a while. And finally he just put the book down, and he started sucking his thumb, and he just sat in my lap at 17 months old. He was there for like 15 minutes. Wow. Now he was kind of, a little sleepy, but that might be a nice time to do it as well. Maybe sing them a few songs, and then you meditate while they sit in your lap, just as a way to introduce it to them.
Okay.
Yeah, I think your kids' program is going to be an amazing service.
You have 2 signups right now. Yeah.
Yay! I'm so excited about it.
Just think about all the stress that kids are under. I mean, you mentioned like if there's stress in the household, but I mean, just going to school and the bullying that's going on, and just
social media,
they're growing up in an environment that's crazy, it's relative to even when we grew up, with just the demands on them and their schedules and all that. So I think it's a really important thing. So I'm excited for that. Let's see, what else do we have here?
You had, and I think we maybe touched on it a little bit, the number one tip for someone starting to meditate. I would go out on a limb and say, do the 2 a day, like by hook or by crook. Like, would that maybe be the number one? I mean, clearly do it, but then if you're going to do it, do the 2 a day, because it's almost setting yourself up for failure to not really commit to that and just make it happen.
Yeah, I think that once you have a practice and once you have some training, I do think that you're right. Twice a day is easier than once a day. However, my number one tip for people, looking to get started is to treat it like a skill. You would not expect yourself to speak Japanese without ever taking a Japanese class. You wouldn't expect yourself to learn how to tap dance on day 1. You would take a class. And just because meditation is simple does not mean you should magically already know how to do it. This is your brain that we're talking about. And it's like, if you're not going to take the time to invest in your brain, which is ultimately printing every single cell in your body, what else are you spending your time on? This thing is making every single decision in your life. So let's give it the respect that it demands and deserves. So I'd say treat it like a skill. If people think I'm a ding dong, fine, but find a teacher that you trust and respect, and commit the time and the energy to learn a skill. And then you'll know it's working for you if your life is getting better. You'll know it's the right one for you if you're seeing a return on investment. And then if that's happening, then follow the program. And in this case, it's twice a day. Oh, and then the other big piece is, and we're way off number one tip now, but the other big piece is thoughts are not the enemy of meditation. effort is. You know, the mind thinks involuntarily, just like the heart beats involuntarily. And the only reason people think they need to clear their mind during meditation is they're basing it on monastic types of meditation. So we just have to reframe that old paradigm.
That was such a big takeaway for me in the book, like your analogy with like your thought, be like a hostess at a party, not the bouncer. You're not kicking the thoughts out of your head, like just let them come and then just turn away from them or turn towards the mantra. So that was, that's a really powerful visual for
you're a good little rule follower. So it had to be like super delineated to yeah. But you know, again, not to like just gush overly, but in the last 7 months, we bought a house, sold a house, moved 2,000 miles away, started homeschooling, completely repivoted our whole business thing, and in such a way that we weren't really sure if anybody was going to show up and we were going to continue doing what we were doing. You know, starting to build a new social network, but we had lived in Reno for almost 10 years and her dad lives there. We have like great social connections. The long and short of it is that I would make the case that we've like, if you rank those like life stressors, short of like someone dying, we had a ton of them and like back to back and on top of each other. And it sucked. I would prefer it not to be that way. But we handled it far better than we handled our life.
Well, several times we said
low stress environments, you know, like
several times we were like, thank God we're meditating. Because like this would be unbearable.
I mean, we really wouldn't have made it through. Like I just can't gush. At some point you gush so much that people are like, okay, this is bullshit and I'm going to like check out. But it's totally life changing. And I just wanted to mention something, with our kids in the past, whenever they've gotten hurt, so like they tumble down the stairs or they crash a bike or something like that, my initial emotion is anger. Now I'm not mad at them, but I'm mad at the situation because I get scared and then I'm angry and it takes me a while to kind of like work through this stuff. And the other day,
so we slipped.
Oh yeah. So we have polished concrete floor, and I mean, Three Stooges
totally
steel,
slipped.
just like feet up in the air, landed on her back. And I shot up and I just scooped her up and cradled her. And there was no anger. Like teared up a little bit. Like, you know.
No, it contrasted with when she was like, you know, just a little over a year old, just started walking and she slipped on the fireplace and knocked her tooth like through her bottom lip. And that was the first time I think I had experienced that with you where you got really mad. And
I wasn't mad at her, but I was just scared. Yeah. And so my fear led to anger.
So that has,
it was fight or flight changed. And you fought.
Yeah. And I wanted to fight. Yeah. Because I'm not a very good runner. So I'd rather just die right there than try to run away. But like you noticed it, I was kind of noodling. I'm like, wow, that was a really different experience. Response. And she said, you're different. Like you handled that whole thing totally differently, you know? And even when we need to kind of discipline the kids and stuff like that, like I'm much more kind, much more thoughtful, not so like bitey with stuff. Like I'm still kind of a jerk and I hold their feet to the fire and their standards and everything. But there's a lot more love and connection there. Whereas before it was more of just kind of like drill sergeant, like dictating stuff out and trying to make my life easy. But the fact I've meditated, my life is now easier. So I don't need to be a dick on the back end to try to get done what I think needs to be done. So
yes, right on. Thank you for sharing that. It is the most beautiful testimonial. Because like being more loving with your kids, like what else is there? And also I'd say it's more effective. You know, it's a better strategy. You're going to get what you want more of.
Yeah, it's been huge.
Yeah.
Bravo.
Huge.
And also bravo to you guys for being brave enough to make all of those changes. And bravo to you for staying committed. It would have been very easy. You had every excuse in the book to not meditate. And yet you recognize the importance of like everything else is changing. Let me tap into the only thing that is constant, you know, which is ultimately the energy inside of us. That's the only thing that's unchangeable. And so I think in these times of turbulence, it's easy to say, well, you know, I'm moving or my kid's sick or whatever, but that's when we need it the most. And so thanks for being shining examples of that.
It was kind of like somebody threw a rope over a cliff and we were hanging by a tree branch, and it was like, that's the one rope we got, so we're gonna hang on to it. So I don't know how enlightened it was. It was just purely like survival.
Well, and again, to Emily's initial point, like we learned that skill from her. We learned that tool, and we could take it on and whatever, in our life and apply it.
Yeah.
So.
Hey, Emily, would you be willing to maybe walk us through the coming to your senses?
So people are watching this live. So I was thinking it would be really cool if we could just do some, I know you probably don't want to do the full meditation because there's a lot that needs to be taught and explained before with regards to the mantras and whatnot, but maybe like a little meditation or a little come to your senses.
Yeah, I would love that. And what would be the ideal length of time?
Let's see.
We want to be respectful of your time,
so I was planning on this only being an hour. So we've got about 15 minutes, but.
Oh, great. Okay. Why don't I'll do like 10-ish, and then we can leave some time for people to have Q&A or share their experience afterwards. Okay. So
Can I get comfy now?
Please get comfy.
Okay.
So for everybody watching, if you want to make sure your phone is on silent, close down your other tabs. And ideally we want to have our back supported, but our head free. So not in a lazy boy recliner, not cross-legged with nothing behind you, but ideally back supported, head free. And we're going to start with something called balancing breath, because I don't think I teach this in the book, so it might be new for you guys, but it's a really good way to balance the right and left hemispheres of the brain, to go in and de-excite the nervous system. It's a great way to create a state change in the body. And this will be preparing us for the come to your senses, which is one of the mindfulness tools that we use. So again, mindfulness is like the appetizer of the Ziva technique. The meditation, as you mentioned, it requires a bit more explanation, and it's like if you want the key to the car, you got to get the driving instructions. But we'll end with a little mini manifestation as well. So let's take our right hand, we'll take our thumb and ideally our ring finger. If that's uncomfortable, you can always use your pinky. But close your right nostril with your thumb. So you might have to mirror me. And then exhale through your left nostril. Good. Inhale through the left. And then switching sides, closing your left nostril with your ring finger and exhaling through the right. Good. Inhaling through the right. And switching sides, closing your right nostril with your thumb and exhaling through the left. Inhaling through the left. Big, delicious inhale into the belly. And you can close your eyes if you haven't already. When you get to the top of this inhale, take one more sip of air, and floating there at the top for just a moment, noticing that space between, and then switching sides, closing your left nostril with your ring finger and exhaling through the right nostril, all the way to empty. And when you get to the bottom of the exhale, again, being brave enough to sit in that space between, that moment in between the exhale and the inhale. And then allowing that breath to fall into the lungs, fall into the belly, taking a big, delicious inhale through the right nostril. When you get to the top of the inhale, one more sip of air, and then switching sides and letting it just fall out, letting every muscle in your body soften as you surrender and exhale. Really good. And on this inhale, I invite you to imagine this breath and energy coming in through the base of the spine. And as you inhale, imagining this breath and energy traveling up the spine. And when you get to the top of the inhale, switching sides, and then imagine sending that breath and energy right out through the middle of your forehead. Beautiful. So we're starting to awaken our imagination. And on this next inhale, big, delicious inhale, imagine the breath and energy coming in through the base of the spine. And as you fill your lungs, imagine that breath traveling up the spine. You get to the top of the inhale, switching sides, and now exhaling and sending that breath and energy right out through the middle of your forehead. Good. So you can continue this in your own time. The pattern is simply out, in, switch, out, in. With each inhale, you're imagining the breath and energy coming in through the base of the spine. And with each exhale, you're sending that creative energy that lives in the base of our spine. You're sending that out into your day, into your life, into everything that you want to create. And know that as we close the right and left nostrils, we're helping to balance the right and left hemispheres of the brain. As we breathe through only one nostril, we're starting to de-excite the metabolic rate, which is the rate with which the body consumes oxygen. So we're starting to slow everything down, turning our attention inward. Really good. And we'll do one more cycle. Biggest inhale you've taken all year. And as you exhale, letting your brow soften, your jaw soften, your shoulders drop, your belly soften, and giving yourself permission to arrive fully in your body right here, right now. And at the end of your next exhale, you can keep your eyes closed and drop your hands into your lap. And we'll move through a simple but powerful mindfulness exercise called Come to Your Senses. And here we're going to use our 5 senses as a tool to bring ourselves into the body and into the right now. So we'll begin by listening for all the sounds we can detect. Noticing what's the most prevalent sound I can hear right now. The prevalence of my voice. Perhaps there's traffic or airplanes in the background. Or perhaps you can hear the birds chirping outside. And this is an opportunity to not judge these sounds as good or bad, to see them as distractions or enhancements. Instead, we're pulling the lens of our awareness out, and we're starting to include everything that's happening inside of this experience. Hearing the plane in the background where I am. Perhaps you can hear a siren far away. Just noticing what's the most prevalent sound and what's the most subtle. Even already, we're surrendering our agenda of what we think should be happening, and we're allowing the body and the environment to unfold in the way that it knows best. Really good. And now ever so gently bring your awareness to your sense of touch. So what's the most prevalent tactile sensation happening in your body right now? Can you feel the weight of your body against the chair? Can you feel your clothes against your skin? Perhaps the subtlety of the breath as it enters and exits the nostrils. Even if there's pain in the body, how do we notice that as a prevalent sensation instead of judging it as a distraction from our agenda of enjoying the meditation? You may enjoy it, you may not. Either way, it's fine. We meditate to get good at life, not to get good at meditation. So just noticing the most prevalent and the most subtle tactile sensations. Really good. And now, even with the eyes closed, I invite you to see what you're seeing. Can you see the prevalence of the blackness? Perhaps you can see the light of the computer or the light of your window streaming through your eyelids. Are there colors dancing in your mind's eye? Really good. And now we'll bring our awareness to our sense of taste. Even though you're not currently eating anything, noticing what's the most prevalent taste sensation in your body right now. Can you taste your morning coffee or your lunch? Is it simply the absence of taste? You can't get this right or wrong. These are simply tools to bring our awareness into the body and into the present moment. And finally, smell what you're smelling. Can you smell your own shampoo? If the windows are open, can you smell the breeze from the outside? Again, it might simply be the absence of smell. It's through our 5 senses that we access our 6th sense of intuition. It's through our 5 senses that we're able to wake up our right brain, which is in charge of present moment awareness. And our bliss is always found right here, right now. So now we'll start to cycle through the 5 senses. So hear what you're hearing. Feel what you're feeling. See what you're seeing. Taste what you're tasting. And smell what you're smelling. Eventually, we'll move into a space where we're neither chasing pleasure nor avoiding pain, but simply noticing them both as sensations. So hearing, feeling, seeing, tasting, and smelling. Really good. And from this space of expanded awareness and acceptance of everything that's going on, I invite you to think of 3 things that you're most grateful for. It could be the fact that you have food to eat or a place to sleep or air to breathe. It doesn't have to be big or profound. Simply asking the question, what am I grateful for, is powerful enough to change the chemistry of your brain. And from this place of acceptance and gratitude, I invite you to think of one thing that you would love to manifest. Again, it doesn't have to be big or small. You don't have to go for your life's mission. You could simply think about manifesting a great dinner with your family or how you want to feel tomorrow morning when you wake up. But just what one thing that you would love. And probably the first thing that popped into your mind is a great one to play with for today. And now, like you're a little kid playing pretend, I invite you to imagine this dream, this manifestation, this idea as if it is your current reality. Imagining this dream unfolding all around you. So you're signing the contract, you're saying yes, you're walking into the home. Whatever it is for you, imagine it unfolding all around you. You could imagine what it looks like or what it sounds like. Are people laughing or crying? But most importantly, when you think about this thing that you would love coming to fruition, what does that feel like? Do you feel proud? Do you feel excited? Do you feel generous? Do you feel grateful? And taking a moment to breathe that sensation into every single cell in your body. And as you exhale, letting go of anything that is not serving you or this dream. Trusting that your desires are divinely inspired, that nature has given you these desires, and inside of them are the tools to make them manifest. Reminding yourself that your happiness does not lie on the other side of the acquisition of this desire, but it is always here, it is always now. The joy in manifesting comes from assuming the feeling. It's a gift that we're giving ourselves so that we can get into the feeling space of our dreams right here, right now. So one final time, imagining this dream unfolding all around you, letting that bring a little smile to your face, even if you have to fake it till you make it, and inhaling that smile into every single cell in your body. And as you exhale, letting go of anything that is not serving you or this dream. Really good. And giving yourself a big internal high five for tuning in today, a big internal high five for bravely going on this exercise, especially if it was your first time meditating. and knowing that this or something better is already on the way to you, or you wouldn't even want it. And starting to breathe some life into your hands, into your feet. And in your own time, whenever you're ready, we can start to slowly, gently open the eyes. Good job.
That was not bad.
I think I might have gone a little bit more than 10 minutes, but whatever. I figured we were all feeling it.
That was awesome. Thank you so much.
It's my pleasure.
That was incredible. Thank you.
Emily, we can't thank you enough for taking the time and sharing your amazingness with our community. And I feel like what you're doing is truly changing the world. So
it's
awesome.
Changed our lives for sure. Like we wouldn't be doing what we're doing were it not for your work. So huge. Thank you. Yeah.
You guys, I mean, it feels good to hear that from anyone, but it certainly feels good to hear it from you guys, people who have had such a big impact on me and my husband and our health and, our food, because, just like stress is impacting our cognitive ability, what we're eating, how we're moving, all of this, it all impacts our consciousness. And so thank you for the work that you're doing. And I'm truly honored to play a role in it. And thank you for your enthusiasm in sharing this. So many people have joined the Ziva community thanks to you guys. And so I'm very grateful.
Awesome.
Awesome.
How are we going to let folks know where to track Emily and all of this
we
down?
can put links to all of her book and Ziva Online and Manifesting. And I cannot wait to share your kids program when that's ready.
When the kids program is ready, would you be game, once it's going and all, you're comfortable on the backside of that? Would you mind coming back on and we can chat about that?
Yeah, it would be my pleasure. I would love to.
That would be awesome.
Yeah.
Great.
Awesome.
Great.
Awesome. Thank you.
It's my pleasure. Enjoy the rest of your day. And thank you for having me on.
All right.
Bye-bye.
You too.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.